Next semester, I'm actually going to do again the two, hybrid and Hyflex. So and a full online, but that's separate. The hybrid course is the second part of the methods course. And they only are supposed to meet once a week for 1 hour because the rest is internship. So we'll probably be meeting most of those times. And I know that we'll be talking a lot, and I'll probably do it sort of a Hyflex within the hybrid, because there will be some sessions I'll allow them to do discussion board, but even with being full, like face-to-face, I have had to do some sessions online because they're in the field. And every so often they've got students who test positive and they're forced back to online. And so then those are online too. So it's really weird, hybrid, Hyflex mixture. But I will continue to do it mostly hybrid with them doing work online and working face-to-face altogether. It's also a small group, 4 students. So, but I get to teach a linguistics class, Hyflex. And I must admit, I'm really having to think about it very much because it's going to be difficult. It's sort of like trying to teach math or science, Hyflex, with all the notation that you need to use, which is not amenable, at least to me, to write out on the computer on the go. I either will have to have it pre-prepared on slides that or on videos that they can see and that I can sort of show and stop and discuss, or I'm going to have to be using the overhead projector so that I can write things. I might have to use a combination of all the above. So I am having to really, really think of this class, and I'm going to have to load it up front a lot more than I usually do. So I'm already planning in terms of videos that I'm going to prepare with material. And I'm thinking of PowerPoints that I'm going to prepare up front and have them there available. All of them, I use OneDrive, which is much easier to organize than Google Slides, because you can put it in folders and organize it much easier than Google Documents. And I'm going to have to start preparing them over summer. I'm thinking summer because I'm going to South America and it's summer there. Over the Christmas break, I'm going to be working. I've got 1 week of quarantine, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be working on that class and putting it all together. So yes, I'm going to have to really, really work ahead to be able to plan it. And that will be the only way that I'll be able to teach this one class effectively. It's going to be a full class. I've already got 22 students, which is considered full for us, some on the waiting list. It'll also mean a full classroom when I teach, because the classroom has space for 12 students and I'll have 11. So that'll limit how much I can move around. So I'm also going to have to really plan how I'm going to be able to answer questions online and and in the classroom. One thing that I've discovered is that I have to organize and already plan beforehand my screen so that I can have Zoom, the document, or at least I can toggle between Zoom and the document easily, but also have the pane for the chat open all simultaneously. So those are all things that I've realized that I have to plan beforehand because I need to know what I can do. At home, I've got 2 screens. In my office, I've got 2 monitors. It's easy. I can move things around easily. In the classrooms, I can't. And actually in some, they're underneath. So when I'm doing Zoom, what they see is the top of my head. So that's something else I'm having to think ahead of so that I can plan to be addressing everyone at the same time. So yeah, those are things that I'm looking ahead at, that I know that I have to plan for because, well, they're the reality of how we're teaching now.
So providing structure while also providing some flexibility, I think is the key. And I will say from not my 201 class, but my 340 social entrepreneurship class, which was more of a Hyflex class. What I found, I was so proud of my students because I found them not only learning, but applying and really owning the knowledge that we learned in class because of the high flex touch that we had in the class. And they were mature and I was blown away. So if you set it out there, students will achieve it. You just have to plan with flexibility in the system.
What I learned from this course and moving forward, looking to the future for my next course that I'm going to be teaching, I like what I've done so far with trying to make it as available as possible for students, no matter what the circumstance. And again, planning for contingencies related to the pandemic, so that whichever way this goes, the students can still get an education. So I like that there's an opportunity for students to be in the classroom. I like that students can watch the lecture later in case something's happened with their life. So I'm going to maintain that. Other things that I would like to try and incorporate more is more interaction with the students. Like I mentioned before, I felt like the students kind of evolved into less interaction as the semester has gone on. I want to provide some form of incentives or some aspect of the course that brings more interaction with each other, because we're missing out on it. And I feel like the progression or the evolution of my course is, let's keep separating even more. And I don't think that goes well psychologically, mentally for students as well as for faculty in this new environment. And so I'm going to start incorporating some elements that promote interaction, that promote seeing each other, promote communicating with each other, even if it is virtually to some degree. The second thing I want to do is figure out a way to communicate with the students, or to again, more interaction and maybe other platforms to communicate with students. Because like I mentioned before, I felt like the email is just a bottleneck for students missing out on the class. And so I'm trying to explore and incorporate new ways in which I can connect with them and remind them of things coming up, or let them know of, exams coming up, make sure you post this. That's one thing that's one of the main targets is more communication with students, but more interaction with students, and different ways in which I can communicate with students besides just accessing through email.
So I'll have two sections of the beginning level construction class. So I'm repeating a class that I've taught this spring. And like I said, I'm going to deactivate the assignments tab on the left-hand side for them. I'm also going to have more quizzes on the content, just a few questions, but there was like a little bit of content that I put up there, and I was like, when I built it in the summertime, I'm like, they just need to know this. This is stuff that I would normally spend time in class discussing with them. So it's just going to be here. And like, yeah, half of them never touched it. So I was like, okay, I need to force you with a quiz to watch this. So yeah, more quizzes. And I am, with my other class in the springtime, it's drawing, and I am going to try having it be more flex than the hybrid, where just when they're not face to face with me, they're on, synchronous online, following along. So we'll see how that goes. But I figure since it's drawing, that might be a lot more doable than if it was pattern making or garment construction.
As I prepare for next semester, I think about lots of different opportunities that I have seen in the past for collaboration. And so in a hybrid classroom and using room 227, especially in the School of Education building, I have that ability to break them into groups, to have my online people work together or with someone who's online. And so I think ahead about what are things I can do. So I've also incorporated using a timer, right? I just use an online timer so that they know if they're in these groups, what's happening, and I message them, those kinds of things. So I think making sure that I'm clear in my instruction, that I share what needs to be shared, both on the format I'm sending them to and verbally, and ask if they have any questions and get that quick feedback. Does everyone understand the instructions for the breakout room? So they would use those nonverbal clues that I have set up in Zoom so they can click yes or no, so that I know I need to review them. I get that instant feedback, and obviously I'm getting that from my in-house people. So I'm not only focused. A problem that you can have in a hybrid class is that you only focus on the people who are in front of you, or you only focus on your online friends. It's really something I have to make a conscious effort to connect with, having them communicate with each other and making sure I don't just focus on the people in my room, because that's easy to do because you see them. You don't see your online folks. So I always share my screen. I'm always connecting and moving things over and keeping everyone engaged, whether they're online or in-house. So it's a conscious effort I make to make sure I'm asking my online group or I'm asking my in-house group questions, and I'm targeting them through those different activities.
So the big one is trying to create those discussion boards in order to try to help connect the students. I guess two things are really important for me next semester. One of those is engagement. So I'm hoping that through using announcements, that will help kind of keep students engaged and on the same page, as well as building in clicker quizzes or some type of quiz at the beginning of course of each lecture in order to review the previous lecture's material, as well as questions kind of sprinkled in throughout the lecture that will help kind of keep everybody engaged and sort of test their knowledge. And there'll be low stakes types of questions that will hopefully also end up being on the exam. And if they're paying attention, they'll have a good idea of that material, those ideas, those concepts. So hopefully that'll clue them into those kind of big ideas that I'm really wanting them to understand and really trying to drive home. The other thing that I really want to do is make sure that they are connecting with each other, because I think that that's just been a tough thing for everyone this semester, and they're not getting to come to class to see each other, to engage in that way. And I think that that's an unfortunate thing. It's our situation, but that's an important part of college and learning. So I'm hoping that through this discussion board, giving them little feeder topics, current events that are pertaining to what we're covering that week, or maybe a clinical connection sort of thing. You know, this is what we see in this particular disease. How do you think that relates to what we're learning? Just some little topics to kind of get them to connect with each other and to start learning from each other. And I'm happy to help kind of oversee that and maybe jump in every now and then just to kind of keep it going. But I'm hoping that that will help fuel the study groups that I'm also trying to help them connect through. So through a separate discussion board, I've got a little place where they can connect with each other. You have to comment first before you can see anybody else's comment, sort of situation, to help kind of keep it private. But hopefully that will help kind of create a better online community throughout the semester, so that everybody can connect and learn from each other and hopefully feel a little happier.